This is a video explaining how to use the shifter list for demand. Remember, the demand curve tells us how buyers behave. What we want to do with supply and demand curves is understand how do buyers and sellers interact in markets when they're buying and selling from one another, and how do they influence the price. All right, so where do prices come from? They come from buyers and sellers and this interaction between the two of them. And so what we're trying to do is illustrate that interaction between buyers and sellers. And so here we're focusing on the way buyers behave. Okay, so just the way buyers behave. This demand curve tells us how do our buyers behave. Now, the first thing you'll notice very simply, and you should know this from any review of the demand curve, is demand curve is always downward sloping. Remember, the demand curve is downward sloping because at higher prices, we'll call it PH for P high, at higher prices, buyers want to buy less. So quantity demanded is low, L. But at lower prices, buyers want to buy more. So when you draw a demand curve, it may take, all kind of different shapes besides this. Some people kind of do a little curve in it. Some people do different things, but the point is it needs to be downward sloping. All right, so hopefully that's clear why that's true, because as higher prices, buyers want to buy less, and lower prices, buyers want to buy more. That's the law of demand. All right, but buyers care about more than just the price. So when the price changes, the quantity demanded changes. That's what we just showed. So high prices, low quantity demand, low price, high quantity demand. So when the price changes, quantity demanded changes. But buyers care about more than just the price. Buyers care about other things. And that's what this list is, the other things that buyers care about. And that's what we're going to work on today. So let's look and just practice with this list very simply on how these things in this list would change buyer behavior. An increase in the population. All right. So whatever good this is we're talking about, maybe it's pizza. And I use this with my college students a lot. Pizza in Clinton, Mississippi, where I teach at Mississippi College, the market for pizza, the demand for pizza specifically, changes with the population of Clinton. All right. So when school comes back in August, all right, and the population increases, which is what this is asking about, right? An increased population. What happens to the demand for pizza? Well, we can logically think through that, but let's just use our shifter list. An increase in population increases demand. All right. Well, that's easy. Increase demand. All right, and that makes sense. The more students there are, the more people there are in Clinton, the more people are going to want to buy pizza. All right, so an increase in demand means the whole curve shifts to the right. So it'll look like this. All right, and the curve will come on down. So that's very simple. That's the way you answer it. You just take the question, and we kind of went into some more detail about, an example of that question. But ultimately, you just need to be able to use this part of the shifter list. Okay. So let me clear my drawings. Let's do the next one. A decrease in taste or preference. All right. So that could be, something going on like the market for ice cream. Maybe when it's cold outside, so like in the winter months, people want less ice cream. They have a less of a taste for ice cream. All right. So we can think about what that means, but for buyer behavior, but let's just check our list. Well, the list says that if tastes increase, demand increases. So the opposite of that is also true. If tastes decrease, then demand decreases. So a decrease in demand. All right, and again, that's a shift to the left. All right, so decrease in demand means a shift to the left, and increase in demand means a shift to the right. So this would be a decrease in demand, shift to the left, because people's preferences decrease. That makes sense. So when it gets cold outside, people's taste for ice cream decrease, so the demand for ice cream decreases. So the demand curve would shift left. All right, again, we're trying to illustrate buyer behavior. All right, so whether the prices are high or low, buyers are going to buy less now than they would have. Previously, they would have bought at this price, whatever price is this, let's call it $3 for an ice cream cone. Previously, they would have bought some amount out here, this quantity. But now they're only willing to buy this amount. Even if the price is lower at $2 an ice cream cone, they're still willing to buy less than they were before. So that's what a shift means, is that buyers are now willing and able to buy less than they were at every price. All right. So again, if you don't understand everything I just said, that's okay. The main thing you need to do is start building this skill to take what's said here, connect it to a shifter over here, shift your demand curve the right direction. All right, and you get better and better with this material. If the product is an inferior good, now remember, an inferior good means something that as you make more money, you'll buy less of. So a common example of this would be like ramen noodles. And I personally like ramen noodles, but it's a really cheap food. And a lot of times when people's income goes up, they actually buy less ramen, right? Most things in life, when your income goes up, you buy more of it, so your demand goes up. But for some things called inferior goods, when your income goes up, your demand goes down. And that's simple. It's very right over here. Income goes up for an inferior good, demand goes down. All right, so an increase in income for an inferior good means demand goes down. Remember, that's a shift to the left. So it'll be right here. Here's my new demand curve. It'll move over. Okay. All right, a decrease in the price of the product. Now, this is kind of a trick question, all right, because everything we've done so far, remember this one increased demand, and this one decreased demand, and this one decreased demand. So the whole curve was shifting. This one, a decrease in the price of the product, is kind of a trick question. Why? Because the price of the product, when it changes, the quantity demanded changes. All right. So a decrease in the price of the product means quantity demanded increases. And notice it says quantity demanded. Why? Because when the price goes down, let's say the initial price is up here and the initial quantity demanded is right here. But when the price goes down to P2, the quantity demanded goes up. The curve does not actually move. We just move from one point on the curve to a new point on the curve. So the curve didn't move, it didn't shift. The price changed, so quantity demanded changes. All right. So in this case, price went down, quantity demanded went up. There is no shift. Demand did not change. Remember, when you say demand increases, that means the whole curve moved. Or demand decreased, that means the whole curve moved. Quantity demanded increases, that means we just moved to a new point on the curve. All right, so just be careful. This one's not a shifter. I like to call it a slider, but a lot of textbooks call it a movement along the curve. So you just move right down the curve. All right, and the opposite's also true, right? If the price goes up, quantity demanded goes down. That's what the law of demand teaches us. All right, so that's not a shifter. It's not on the shifter list. It's the slider or the movement along the curve. All right. A decrease in the price of a substitute good. All right, so I'm not even going to say anything. Let's just look straight at the shifter list. Substitute goods, if the price goes up, demand goes up. So if the price goes down, that means demand goes down. So we don't even have to understand what it's saying. We just need to be able to use the list, right? Demand goes down, that means shift to the left. That's all you got to be able to do. Now, it'd be helpful if you can understand why, all right? So substitute goods would be like Coca-Cola and Pepsi. These are things, typically you go to the store, you buy one or the other. So if the price of Coca-Cola goes down, then the demand for Pepsi goes down because people are going to buy Coke. All right. So that's very simple. But remember, you don't have to fully understand everything there is to know about it. You just need to be able to use the shifter list right now, and you're going to get better and better at this. A decrease in the price of a complementary good. Let's just go straight to our shifter list. If the price of a complement goes up, demand goes down. So that means if the price of a complement goes down, demand must go up. So when demand goes up, it moves to the right. That's always true. Demand increases, that's to the right. When demand decreases, it's to the left. All right, so that's simple. Now, what does that mean? Okay, complementary goods are things like peanut butter and jelly. You buy them together. All right, if the price of peanut butter goes up, the demand for jelly goes down because your sandwich just got more expensive. All right. But again, just be able to use this list. An increase in the expected future price of the product. So if we think the price of the product's going to go up in the future, demand increases today. All right. So that would be a shift to the right. And the increase in demand is a shift to the right. And that lines, we generally try to draw something like a parallel shift, although that doesn't necessarily have to be true. Just think about why that's true. If I expect the price of gas to go up next week or next month, I'm going to buy more today to make sure my tank is full while it's cheaper. All right. And the last one, we don't have much room here, but if the product is a normal good and a decrease in income. So here we are, normal goods. If income increases, demand increases. But this is asking what happens if income decreases. So demand's going to decrease, which means a shift to the left. All right, so hopefully you found that very simple. You just need to be able to take this shifter list and apply it. And sometimes I'll ask you very simply, a simple question like a decrease in the price of the product, which is actually not a shifter, that's a slide, or a decrease in the price of a substitute good, and you can just go straight to the shifter list. Sometimes I'll give you an example. Sometimes I'll say, what happens if the price of peanut butter goes up? That says PB. What happens if the price of peanut butter goes up to the market for jelly? And so you would need to take that and understand those are complementary goods, right? So sometimes I'll give you examples like this, and sometimes I'll just give you the shifter, like expected future price. Just literally just read it right off the chart. But regardless, you need to be able to use the shifter list and use it well to do well in this course.